5 resource-rich countries where people live in poverty. 1. Russia. More than 12% of Russians live below the national poverty line. In fact, Russia has never been wealthy. Sure, it has plenty of billionaires and oligarchs, but wealth inequality in Russia is staggering. This might explain why there's so much abject poverty. On paper, Russia is reasonably wealthy, but that money is invariably divided among the top few. Indeed, Russia's natural resources are where it comes from. The Russians say they've got the entire periodic table. Given the country's size, it's hardly surprising. Russia has diamonds, ores, coal, gold, uranium, titanium, etc. It has nearly inexhaustible reserves of timber and water. Of course, it's also one of the largest oil and natural gas producers. Yet the mining and drilling regions are some of the poorest. The wealthiest by far is Moscow, which has no resources at all. 2. Venezuela. Venezuela has an estimated $14.3 trillion in natural resources. It's got vast reserves of iron ore and natural gas. But of course, Venezuela's biggest asset is oil. Its known oil reserves are the largest in the world. Oil is basically the only source of government revenue. It accounts for a whopping 95% of Venezuelan exports. Venezuela even has diamond and gold mines, but you wouldn't know it by looking at its citizens. More than a third of Venezuelans live below the poverty line. There's no reliable electricity or water supplies. Economic mismanagement in Venezuela has been brutal. It is now one of the poorest states in South America. 3. Papua New Guinea. Almost 40% of Papua New Guineans live below the poverty line. It's one of the world's least developed countries. Most of its population lives in remote communities. They can only be reached by foot or helicopter. Yet Papua New Guinea is rich in gas, gold, and copper. Oil, gas, and mining account for almost 30% of its GDP, but all of it is extracted by foreign companies. The government's share rarely leaves the capital. This breeds more corruption. As a result, no one is interested in development. 4. Mexico. More than 32% of Mexicans live on less than $3.85 a day. Yet the country is an Aladdin's cave of minerals. Mexico is among the world's largest producers of silver, copper, gold, lead, and zinc. It has mercury, cadmium, manganese, iron, and coal. It has abundant timber. It's a major producer of oil and natural gas. But there's also endemic corruption and overpopulation. Mexico is notorious for its wealth inequality. Some places look like Monaco, while others resemble Somalia. The ever-present and violent cartels only make things worse. 5. Nigeria. Nigeria is huge, and it's very rich in natural resources. It has oil, gas, coal, iron ore, tin, niobium, and much more. In fact, 90% of its revenue comes from oil and gas. However, this over-reliance on the oil and gas sector has also been a curse. The country's economy struggles when oil prices fall. Another problem is that these resources aren't evenly distributed. Conflicts constantly break out in resource-rich regions. Authoritarianism and corruption exacerbate things further. Nigeria is also the biggest African country in terms of population. It has over 213 million people, with 90.8% of them living in poverty. More than 30% live in extreme poverty.